Hey everyone, my name is David. I am a DIY landlord based in California, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about some details involving tenant screening. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit more on some of the nuances of actual screening. So, number one question I get asked is, what does it cost? Well, in this example here, I have Avail, which is the property management software that I use to manage my rental properties. It is $55, and this is typically paid for by the applicant. Sometimes if you have a small sort of like old school type of landlord, you might have to actually pay them up front and they don't use any software and they're using their own tools kind of behind the scenes. But for the most part now, a lot of major apartment complexes or sites that are larger like realtor.com Avail, they'll typically pay a one-time fee and that'll give you access to apply to a variety of different rental properties over the course of, say, 30, 60, or 90 days. So general screening usually costs between $30 to, I'd say, $55, $60, and it is typically paid for by the renter. This varies by state. So whether you're in California or New York or somewhere in between, you will have different laws and different things that may govern how much you can spend or sort of charge on this, and or some of the things you can actually screen for. So I highly recommend doing your diligence here on a state-to-state level. It does vary by state, but for example, in California, I've done a lot of research and I'm quite familiar with the process here in this state. So definitely recommend checking that out, right? So the screening process is really that first line of defense in this, and some of the things you ask and are going to verify during the screening process are going to help you make an educated decision and reduce risk on that front. So things like verifying where your renters' potential income sources are coming from, their documentation, are they who they say they are, their government ID, and things of that nature. And actually, in the screening process is where you're going to make sure, does their government ID actually match who they say they are? Many of these softwares will even verify social security number to their credit and various things like that that you can't really do with like a quick Google search or anything like that. So tenant screening goes a little bit beyond almost the application, and it's really just like making sure you're doing your due diligence up front. Is this person who they say they are, and reducing risk for you being a landlord and on your asset. So what can happen if you don't do this stuff? Well, not to be like Captain Obvious here, but if you don't, you could have a variety of issues. You could have potential late payments. You could have income sources that aren't actually there. You could have a person lying and putting their brother on the application. It's not actually them. There's a whole wide variety of things that can go wrong here that could lead to late payments, evictions, legal fees, and all kinds of stuff. So again, first line of defense, this is the most important part. Take your time. Do everything you can in your power to just make sure this person is who they say they are and that their income and their sort of previous residence histories and all that stuff checks out. Because if you don't, and you sort of cut corners on this, I would just advise this is not a step to cut corners on. If you want to get a cheaper quality oven because you don't want to splurge on the nice oven, that's a totally different story for your rental property. But skipping over the screening process is a no-go. I would never recommend that to anyone. And this is really where you want to invest a lot of your time and sort of mental horsepower in making sure you're placing good renters into your property. I only have one extra tip here that I wanted to share, and that would be that when you are doing this process, I usually know when someone is sort of like all in. So generally, you'll get some applications that you could tell are just people filling it out, checking the boxes, and sending it over. And it's usually the people that want the property and are very interested in sort of this competitive environment that they'll send me a personalized message and they'll say, hey, when can we review it? When can we tour the property? I want to meet you, all that good stuff. And these are just like good signals I always look for. And typically, you got to be careful, right? There's laws in place and you can't prioritize who you want to pick, but you will typically be able to tell who is more interested and who is just sort of sending an application just for the sake of sending an application. So one tip I would say to look out for is usually those people stand out and they often have a pretty clean and thorough application. right? It may not be the best, it may not be the highest income, it may not be the lowest, but it's typically very comprehensive and they'll have all their information up front, which makes the screening process and actual like compiling of all the data and verifying everything a lot faster. So typically what I see is that the renters that I usually place have provided all that up front and eliminates a lot of back and forth, and you're able to just get them through the process faster without having to do this sort of administrative work. So that often helps with me. So yeah, if you're looking for help on doing this, check out Avail. I've been using Avail for 5 years. It's been great for me. There's plenty of other software and providers under the sun. You can also do it yourself behind the scenes, but that's a lot of work. But this is very easy. Try not to put it all on yourself and reinvent the wheel here. It's very affordable these days. And there's a lot of software systems out under the sun to help you do this. So this is just a quick sort of recap of some of the sort of nuances of tenant screening, and hope this video helped you all. And yeah, definitely don't cut corners on this process. Take your time and make sure you do everything you can to get a good renter in place for your property. Thank you and have a good one.